What's the real story about Russian influence in the 2016 election? It's not what has been widely reported. The Russia Hoax by Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett reveals how persons within the FBI and Barack Obama's Justice Department abuse their positions of power to subvert our system of government and undermine the democratic process to help elect Hillary Clinton and defeat Donald Trump. Those same people appear to have pursued a contrived investigation of President Trump in an attempt to undo the election results and remove him as president.
Well, author and journalist Greg Jarrett is joining us now from New York. Greg, it's a terrific book. It's called The Russian Hoax. How come you wrote this book? What got you going on it?
Well, I'm a lawyer by trade, but I have been a journalist for 3 decades. And as I watched all of this unfold, I knew that there were people at the FBI and the Department of Justice who were abusing their positions of power to try to influence the election. Not so much the Russians, but our own government. People like James Comey, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page at the FBI, Andrew McCabe, and Bruce Orr at the Department of Justice. James Comey, on the very day that he wrongfully cleared Hillary Clinton, his FBI was meeting secretly in Europe with the author of this fabricated dossier. And armed with that document, the FBI and the Department of Justice tried to frame Donald Trump for so-called collusion, crimes he never committed.
Well, let me ask you, that dossier was written by a man who has been discredited, but he was on the payroll of the FBI, wasn't he?
He was. He received 11 payments, Pat, and he was also on the payroll of Hillary Clinton. And yet, when they went to FISA judges to spy on the Trump campaign through a wiretap warrant, they concealed that evidence and deceived the judges, committing a fraud on the court. And that fraud went on for a full year, and it also involved the current Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, who signed off on that final FISA renewal warrant without the proper evidence required by law.
There's so many things in your book that I want to bring up, but Comey apparently had a meeting with the president, taped some comments, went out and then gave those comments to the press. Comment on that. That apparently is a violation of law, isn't it?
It is, and I point out the various violations of law and felonies that James Comey appears to have committed. For example, he stole those government documents. Those presidential memos are not his to keep and take away from the Hoover Building in Washington, D.C. and use for his own personal purposes. That's a direct violation of the law. And then he leaked it to the media for the sole purpose of triggering a special counsel to investigate the man who had fired him, Comey. And who gets picked as the special counsel? Comey's longtime friend, ally, and partner, Bob Mueller, who should never have accepted the job because of multiple conflicts of interest, as I write in the book.
What relationship did Comey have with Mueller?
Comey and Mueller were longtime friends and partners. And in fact, it was a protege-mentor relationship. These two had handled cases in the past, and as I point out in the book, their most notorious case was the anthrax case, in which they so badly bungled it, it cost American taxpayers $6 million in damages to an individual they falsely accused. So these guys go back decades together, along with Rod Rosenstein, who also should have recused himself because he's a key witness in the case, and yet he's Mueller's boss. You can't be a prosecutor and a witness all rolled into one. So all of this is a cesspool of corruption at the FBI, the Department of Justice, as well as the special counsel investigation.
You pointed out very cogently that in order to have a special counsel appointed, he has to be pursuing a crime. They have to designate a crime. Was there a crime designated when Rod Rosenstein appointed him or set out the mandate for him?
No, absolutely not. You're right, Pat. There must first, under the law, be a stated crime. Look at the authorization order appointing Mueller. There's no crime stated there. It says look into links between Trump and Russia during the 2016 election, the so-called collusion. Collusion's not a crime found anywhere in the criminal codes except in antitrust law, and it's no other relevant felony as well, including honest services fraud or conspiracy to defraud the government. So this was always an investigation in search of a crime, and that is turning the law and the federal regulations upside down. It was an illegitimate investigation to begin with.
Rosenstein just kind of kept expanding the mandate, didn't he? If what the Mueller was doing didn't fit the mandate, he expanded the mandate, didn't he?
He did, and without authorization and in violation of the federal regulations. And, you know, Rosenstein also issued a secret authorization order. But for the lawyers in the Manafort case, we still wouldn't even know about it. That is also in violation of federal regulations in the spirit of the law. You know, Rosenstein has a lot to answer for, and one of the reasons why he has been obstructing lawful subpoenas from Congress is because he has been involved in this illicit scheme, and he has a motive to cover it up, Pat.
Well, let me ask you, they said that Trump obstructed justice when he fired Comey. He was legally authorized to do just that, wasn't he, if he wanted to? He's president.
He was. Article 2 of the Constitution gives him complete and unfettered authority to fire somebody who's the head of a federal executive agency like James Comey. And Robert Mueller has no legal basis, no legal right to question the president about exercising his constitutional authority. I think we know now that Mueller doesn't even want to question the president about obstruction of justice because he knows the law does not support him pursuing the president on that. So all he's got left is collusion, and there was never any evidence that Trump colluded with the Russians to win the election.
Greg, you know, the president, whether the people like it or not, has turned this economy around. It is booming like we can't remember in decades. The unemployment rate is down to the lowest level we can imagine. Everything, the GDP is up. What is this business about impeaching? What has President Trump done that would justify some kind of impeachment? The Democrats calling for impeachment.
Absolutely nothing. But remember, impeachment is not a legal process. Yes, treason, high crimes, misdemeanor, bribery, and so forth. But it really is a political mechanism that the Founding Fathers established in the Constitution. And Jerry Ford probably said it best back in the day when he was a congressman before he became president. He said impeachment is anything Congress says it is on any given day. But I think it's a terrible mistake for Democrats like Nancy Pelosi or Maxine Waters, certainly, to be arguing for impeachment because, you know, like it or not, the economy is doing great. People's wages are up, manufacturing's up, unemployment is down. Just look at the laundry list of consumer optimism. And you know, people may disagree with Donald Trump's personality or his approach or his tweets, but you cannot object to his performance on policy, especially the economy.
Greg, one last question. When I read this book, you know, I get mad. I'm sure a lot of people do. They think there's got to be some way of calling this Justice Department to account. How can we do it?
You need a new Attorney General and Deputy Attorney General, and I'm convinced that after the midterm elections, Jeff Sessions and Rod Rosenstein will be relieved of their duty and bring in somebody else, somebody like Congressman John Ratcliffe, House Judiciary Committee, a strong legal background, former U.S. attorney, former top DOJ official. This is a guy who would not only reopen the Hillary Clinton email case, as it should be, but I think he would present all of this evidence of corruption by the FBI and the Department of Justice to a grand jury. So an honest prosecutor, an honest and legitimate attorney general, I think would present this to a grand jury. And I think if that happened, there would be indictments.
You think they have committed crimes. There's no question about it, right?
I'm convinced they are, and I lay out a wide variety of crimes that I believe were committed by people at the FBI and the Department of Justice. Obstruction of justice, abuse of power, perjury, the list goes on and on.
Shocking. Ladies and gentlemen, Greg, is a terrific book. It's called The Russian Hoax, the illicit scheme to clear Hillary Clinton and frame Donald Trump. I hope you sell a lot of them. Are they going well?
Thank you. You know, it's been the #1 book on the New York Times for 3 weeks in a row. My liberal friends have read it and said, you know what, Greg, you've totally turned me around and convinced me. So I hope people read it.
Well, it's a brilliant work, and I commend it to our readers. Thank you very much for being with us.
My pleasure, Pat. Thank you.